Moscow engulfed by thick smog from raging wildfires. Moscow was engulfed on Wednesday by the thickest blanket of smog yet this summer, an acrid, choking haze from wildfires that have wiped out Russian forests, whole villages, and a military base. Passengers on Moscow subway said the eye-stinging haze hovered above the platforms, and City Hall warned of health risks from the smoke, which is carrying harmful gases including carbon monoxide. To the east, firefighters focused on beating flames back from a top-secret nuclear research faculty. In the capital, the president fired several high-ranking military officials over what he called criminal negligence in fires that ravaged a military base. "I woke up before dawn and I thought I was going to die of suffocation," said a frail 62-year-old former schoolteacher who lives in central Moscow. Russia is suffering through its worst heat wave on record ever, a condition that has sparked forest and peat fires across its central and western regions that have killed at least 48 people in the past week. Temperatures for weeks have soared as high as 38 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and Moscow, where the average summer temperature usually is around 23 Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit. Over the last 24 hours, firefighters have extinguished some 293 fires, but 403 others have been spotted, and more than 500 others have continued to rage over large areas of the countryside, some of them out of control, the Emergencies Ministry said. Dry winds have sent clouds of smog over Moscow before, but Wednesday's was the worst yet, with the haze obscuring the capital's landmarks and penetrating the subway system. Moscow's 10 million residents were cautioned to protect themselves against the polluting smog, which came from wildfires in forests and peat bogs to the south and east. The bogs were drained in Soviet times to harvest peat, leaving them prone to wildfires. Pollution indicators in the capital reached a critical barrier overnight, and even healthy people must take preventive measures, Moscow weather officials said. Residents were also urged to wear face masks outdoors. Humans were not the only ones suffering. The thick smoke and smog in Moscow also have sickened and killed wild and pet birds who are especially sensitive to the air pollution, said the director of the Green Parent Hospital. Some 250 miles to the east, some 2,000 army troops and emergency personnel were fighting back flames that had surrounded Russia's top nuclear research faculty in Sarov. The situation there was tense, but not critical, said the Deputy Defense Minister. So far, there's no threat to the Federal Nuclear Center, and there's no reason for worry, he said. The country's nuclear chief was quoted as saying that all explosive and radioactive material had been moved off-site as a precaution. The top-secret faculty is Russia's main nuclear research center and the birthplace of Soviet nuclear weapons. Another risk of radioactive contamination stems from the forest fires sweeping through areas polluted by the 1986 explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, Russian environmentalists said. The fires have the potential to send radioactive dust into the air, but nuclear energy scientists said the danger came not from radioactivity, but from fine particles in the smoke. The concentration of radioactive elements will be so negligible, but the smoke itself will be many more times more dangerous than the radioactivity in it. Fine dust that contains chemical pollutants is a real danger and is much more poisonous than radioactivity. In other words, these are very dangerous. wildfires. And yes, climate change, or whatever have you call it, is real. It's happening all around the world, and it's increasing. These extreme weather events are increasing in frequency rapidly. The president of Russia fired the chief of Russia's naval aviation and at least 7 high-ranking military officials after fires burned at least half of the buildings at a military base near Moscow. Russian media said up to 200 naval aircraft may have been destroyed. If something similar happens in other places and other agencies, I'll do exactly the same thing with no sympathy, he also added. The weather this week will not likely help the firefighting efforts, as temperatures in Moscow and to the south and east were forecast to reach at least 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, these are more extreme, intense weather events. Extreme wildfires and intense heat waves are happening all around the world, in the United States also. And then there's the Pakistan floods, the most severe floods that country has ever seen. And all these are connected. They are all related, because everything is numbered. And yes, everything is connected. It's time. These are the end times, transition days. Revelation chapter 8, verse 6. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and the 3rd part of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the 3rd part of the sea became as blood. 9. And the 3rd part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the 3rd part of the ships were destroyed. 10. And the 3rd angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the 3rd part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. 11. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the 3rd part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. 12. And the 4th angel sounded, and the 3rd part of the sun was smitten, and the 3rd part of the moon, and the 3rd part of the stars, so as the 3rd part of them was darkened. And the day shone not for a 3rd part of it, and the night likewise. 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound. And all these things happening are more signs happening daily all around the world.